Good morning, everyone. We're starting right now. We request everybody to please settle down and put your devices on silent mode. Also, requesting everyone who is coming in to gather towards the middle so that you get the best view once we start with the breakfast session. Kind request for everyone. All right, let's get the show on the road. Officially, very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shaurya Bose, and I will be the host for you today. On behalf of Data Security Council of India, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome all of you, our esteemed guests, delegates, speakers, sponsors, and exhibitors and partners to the 16th edition of the Best Practices Meet 2024, or else BPM 2024. Thank you so much. Great, great. I think the coffee needs a lot more brewing, and I hope you've had the breakfast. Would request everybody to have a little more excited punch to it. So let's kick off our day with a power-packed agenda. We hope you have the agenda on your mobile screens, and we'll have projections all across the venue so that you can keep track of what's coming on. And this will include exciting discussions, gatherings, the launch sessions, and many, many more. So without further ado, let's kickstart today's proceedings with our very first breakfast session on thriving in the world of accelerated AI. To set the tone for this exciting day, please join me in welcoming our CEO, Mr. Vinayak Godse, to the stage. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shaurya. And as we all know, this is the 16th edition of a Best Practices Meet. DSCI was set up in August 2008. So Best Practice Meet, the tradition started before even DSCI was formed. In fact, formation of DSCI, the process of formation of DSCI started with some of the meeting that happened in 2008, and that was called as a Best Practices Meet. And this is a 16th edition, although DSCI completed its 16th birthday on 22nd of the August this month, actually. So this event is largely very focused on a particular theme, and we had been doing as a theme, but now you must have seen the agenda. It's mostly focused on a one. Definitely in the morning we'll spend time deliberating, discussing about the various diverse subject and as well as some of the plenaries and keynote session. But in the afternoon we are doing these multiple sub summits. So security as a subject is becoming so decomposed, and some of the areas are becoming so significant. So we thought about doing different way of this particular best practices meet through different four sub summits. One is definitely Bangalore is a center for the all the global cyber security work happens. So there is a GCC sub summit which is happening. Aerospace is evolving as one of the important area for intervention and attention of security. That's another sub summit we have been doing. Digital finance is one of the important era. So that's why we are doing some summit on there. And as we know that this year, especially a very specific year, because at the end of day, almost after 10 years of their work and effort, there was a formal PQC algorithm which NIST published, right? The post-quantum crypto. So we'll be doing a sub-summit on quantum and quantum engineering as well, and what kind of challenges posed to cybersecurity, how can we look at those challenges from the security perspective, right? And those end will be certainly meeting all together in terms of our evening to spend time with each other as a networking dinner. So this has been devised as an agenda which dwells down to the subject at a level of depth, and that's what the best practices meet has been devised. Every year we try to do it a different way. Last year also there was some different experiment, and every time we get a very good support for the Bangalore cybersecurity community. So as a tradition, we start with the breakfast meeting with always a kind of off track subject, right? And this is a uh, title that I thought about today's breakfast meeting. Um, so what do you get out of this title? So what it means basically, right? Can somebody circulate the mics? So anything that you comes to your mind when we talk about this topic and why we are talking about this topic today? Yeah, Sunil.
One thing we are talking about artificial intelligence, which is more about machine doing work what humans can do,
Yeah,
right? And it is taking over the world. I think it's a relevant topic to understand how machines will actually overtake humans or will it collaborate with humans. I think that is
yeah,
what is the thing.
yeah, yeah. Any other thing? Speed of integration, right? The way at which it is happening. This December 22 was just ChatGPT 4 3 came, and then after that, almost every week there is a new announcement happening. Yes, Wayne.
Yeah, so Vinayak sir, so if you were to look at AI overall, right, the kind of technologies that are available out there and the way things are changing, what has gotten us here in terms of security specifically is not going to take us forward.
Yeah,
And for us to thrive as a society, we need to look at doing things differently and using AI more effectively to counter
yeah,
threats that can be driven by AI. That's
yeah.
the thought
And
process.
I leave that to you because you have a session on AI and use of AI for cybersecurity. I'll be largely in this session. We'll be talking about general oral thing and how this is shaping the entire the world altogether, right? So when we say AI, right, and this is a different AI than what we used to have, right? The AI that we used to have largely is a black box AI. We used to work on our own data, one own algorithm, and we will be developing something. And most of the corporate AI projects can be qualified as a black box AI, basically, right? You're doing for your own data, your own algorithm. You may be taking some help of some third party startups or something, but largely you'll be doing with your own data and internal projects, basically. All that has changed in December 2022, right? Because the LLMs, which is processing data at a planetary level, so you suddenly most of the AI projects got short circuited because of the way LLM came into picture, right? And after that, we are seeing the every month, every week almost, the new innovations, new breakthroughs, new launches are happening in this field basically. So what exactly it means to the overall humanity, right? So one important part is the creativity, right? The generation, right? So this transformer network which come together. So it is maybe some of you must have seen the plush for that matter is a tool which with which you can use a text to create a video. The quality of video that you see is such a great now, right? So creating art, creating music, creating writing something, right, is now so easy and so this creativity, there used to be barometer. There will be some creative people who will be creating something, right? But AI is helping you, and that help is not like a help that is critically from the perspective of the AI. It's very rapid, and the scale at which you can create is quite significantly critical, right? And the one of the important thing is can create on your personal taste. Means you can train AI to look at your personal taste, and based on that it creates something, right? It looks like that you have been creating basically. So one important part of the human is you create something. And now transformer network, and that's why we call it generative AI, right? So generation is a creation basically, be it art, be it writing, be it now even generating code as well, right? So the creativity is one of the important attribute of the human, and it is really taking the world surprise every week almost, right? So when Plush launched, everybody was so surprised. There was already Sora, but Plush is taken it to different level altogether, right? The kind of images, kind of videos it create, it has taken entire discussion at a very different level. Another important part is the knowledge work, and most of us do knowledge work, right? But our ability is always constant because the data is so complex, and handling the data, complex data, at the shortest period of time is very tricky for human nature, right? And then it can generate the report. Anybody use Claude 3.5 as a solution or AI model? Anybody? And you know the creation there. So there's artifact. You can ask Claude to do a report on a particular subject. Depending on the product, it will create a report almost 10, 15, 20 pages as well. Right? So it can generate report at such a real time, basically, based on the kind of requirement that you put together, basically. Right? It generates a report, right? It automates it can help you to automate the routine tasks. And one of the important thing, basically, is uh, this is one of the important attributes which I believe is very important. At any point in time, or any subject, any area, any issue, the vast information available at a planetary level is at your fingertip. You have to just prompt it and you'll give that information to you, basically. Right? So that's another important thing from the knowledge work perspective. Right? Another part is from the decision making perspective, right? So our decision fails sometimes, right? And because while we take a decision, there are a lot of nuances, dimensions, interest, and granularities basically. So we may not able to process that, right? As a human, we have limitation in terms of how many nuances, interest, dimensions, and domain that you can cut, come across basically, and how much time that you have to get hold of them and process them to take that decision which is required to be taken in a shortest possible time basically, right? And then do you have data? Can you process that data as a human in terms of taking those decisions basically, right? And one of the important part is the decision making is the scenarios. If you go this way, right, this could happen. If go this way, this could happen basically. So this scenario generation, right, and possible impact of each of the scenario is also very tremendous task, right? And generative AI, especially after 2022, and especially in last 5 6 months of time, is significantly improves this ability to you basically. So knowledge work, we used to pay, and there would be people who are still earning a lot of money doing consulting work, but knowledge work will be significantly different by using this kind of capabilities, basically, right? Any hope some of you have been using some of this kind of thing, so it makes sense here, right? And once you see that, the another important part is the language and communication. And if you see the kind of launches recently happened by Samsung or Google, the kind of effort that is being put together, right? You can talk in a Japanese and some person other side can listen in English, basically, right? So such kind of understanding, this real-time translation and interpretation of language is now so easy. And most of the models are improving quite significantly in this area, right? And then the sophistication of language model, right? So you can interact and engage with the system and to the people other side in any language, and they can understand the language they can talk about. There's a lot of experimentation, right? You can upload document in Marathi and you can ask question in Gujarati. So that is possible here basically. So that's a sophistication of the language models that are coming in picture, right? And then you can converse. So there is conversation agents basically you can have, and you can deploy those for doing conversation at a different level basically. You yourself can have multiple agents, right? Doing different conversation and different kind of ecosystem basically, right? That's what the generative AI is, right? Second, another important part here is the scientific research. And this last week, this has been discussed a lot. Ability. So scientific research is what, right? So one is the hypothesis that you generate. Second part is testing those hypotheses basically, right? So now ability of generative AI to create or generate those hypotheses and test it is significantly improved. And nowadays, especially there is one AI, Sorana something, which is meant for helping you to do this basically, right? So, and because of that, you can, another important part of scientific research is your ability to do this. If somebody has done a PhD, they will be knowing that this literature review is one of the important tasks, right? And a review of literature and review of data, analysis of data basically. So generative AI basically can help you in this quite intensely. And then one of the important part is designing the experiment basically. Until now, there was a limitation in terms of what I can think about. But because of the scenario generation that you can do as a part of the AI, so you can generate those experiments on a various different level altogether, right? And the ability of the researcher or researchers which can be automated as well has significantly improved. Last 1 or 2 weeks, people are talking much critically on this particular part. And then comes basically uh, which is very critical. So its ability to understand the emotion and social intelligence. People are saying that AI will be much better to understand the human emotion in coming future, basically. So and they are getting better of recognizing your emotion, even the way you speak, right? The tone that you have, and we know that our tone, our speech changes based on the emotions that we carry, right? And it can understand at a degree uh, based on the way you are talking to the AI system, to the looking at your facial expressions, to looking at how exactly you are pronouncing a particular word, basically. So it is getting better and better in terms of understanding your emotion, understanding the not only the understanding the emotion, but it is also getting better at how to respond. Some of the new launches that you must have seen in mobile, the way the conversation that they can carry with a user is quite significantly improved in last 1 or 2 years of time, basically. And then you can create your own virtual companions. You can uh, create AI driven, the interactions can be AI driven, social interactions can happen. And one of the important part is that all this is now people being used, and there is a company which offers this, that you can significantly reduce the manpower that you invest to do this customer service and customer responding activity, basically. This is what we had seen in last 2 years of time. Uh, and this is the AI as we see now. And we certainly will look at the AI that will be from now in next 2 years of time. But anything to add to this list, which you had seen yourself? Delegation is some definitely important part, and uh, I did. Uh, uh, so your ability to delegate a particular work to AI, particular task to AI, and then getting that work from the AI is definitely one of the important critical point here. Any other point? Stitching up the information. So uh, there are there are there are lot of those kind of pieces of information. Finding mean out of them, stitching them together to create a big picture is certainly important capability, which LLMs are doing quite phenomenal job here. Yeah, yeah. But that's still currently it's still a black box AI. Yeah, it's not really.
Topic you had, that
Yeah,
accelerated AI.
yeah,
It will accelerate what is already happening.
yeah. So
That's the
in
point.
future it will certainly accelerate,
Yes, yes,
basically.
that's the idea.
Any other thing that comes to mind? Yeah, Sunil.
Industrial automation, where it is
Yeah,
very
automation
risky.
is certainly important part. It will help you to automate a lot of those processes. In fact, I'll be talking about that. AI is getting better and better at helping you to execute or achieve the complex goal. So many things needs to be done for a particular big process. Small steps needs to be taken at a various different time, and it can help you to take those steps, basically, right? So achieving complex goal would be something very critically coming from now because of the three things which is coming. One is the multi-agentic system, mass system that people talk about. There is a mixture of expert, because when you're taking the actions, then you need to have experts, and there could be multiple experts, basically, and you can employ the multiple mixtures experts together. So mixture of experts together, basically. And then there is a lamb that is coming in, which is called as a large action model. So these large action models will talk to these multiple agents to understand the situation. It will consult this mixture of expert depending on which area that particular expertise is coming in, and based on that, it will take those action each and every step, basically. So that's what the system of AI, and that's where the it will be improving quite significantly in coming future. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So one is, improving the cybersecurity and data protection itself, including the fact that you can use adversarial AI modeling, etc. The other could also be something other different type of creation. So, for example, in creativity, that way you mentioned about art, music, and writing, etc. You could also, a few years back when we had this movie Avatar, so they had to create a new language for that movie,
Yeah.
and that was quite a Herculean task by the people who did it. Now using AI, perhaps this will be much faster and easier to do that. So that's another
Yeah,
thing.
every area, no matter which area you are in, right, would get disrupted by this and will get accelerated because of this, basically, right? Be it a film industry, advertisement industry, now Plush is, now people are using it for reducing down the time for advertisement, because I know I had helped one company to develop to this production of advertisement. It's almost 6 month job, but now that can be reduced significantly, and then you can use a best possible model, you can get a best possible scenarios, and there are a lot of possibility that we can create there, basically. So so this is AI until now what we know, right? But what is going to happen from now? So 2 3 years from now, you want to say something? Yeah.
It's an interesting paradigm shift. If you see, right, we spent a lot of time in training AI models, but now I started seeing lot of variables and everything. They started influencing our own decisions. So AI indirectly, with all the prompts and everything, they started training humans. This is what your health talks about. This is what you need.
So
what
this is very important, which I wanted to talk. Right, increasingly they are becoming, because last 6 months back we used to talk about hallucination, right? And can you rely on AI for the output it throws, basically? But that has gone improved quite significantly, and you can use multiple AI system to verify and validate the outcome it is coming, basically. One is individual models are getting more precise, and you can use a multiple routing system to verify each and every outcome which is been thrown by it, basically. So what it tells us that increasingly it will become more precise, more accurate, and if it is precise and more accurate, it processes all of that information. It helps you to process all those dimensions. Then the decisions will be more accurate, more thoughtful, because then it can help you to do all of the scenario mapping. So you know that by taking this stage, this will lead to this. By taking this will lead to taking this. So you will find best out of it. So increasingly, and this is a one phenomena which is becoming very different discussion. Increasingly, you will trust AI more to take decisions, basically. It's not only you; society will trust AI more for that, basically. Yeah. So that's the paradigm we are seeing. But if you see from now, uh, so next 2 3 years of uh, time, right? What is going to happen? One is it will be increasingly difficult for us to distinguish what is being generated by human or what is being generated by AI. That's one of the important thing, right? Scale significantly is everything. Where it will be doing, the scale at which it will be doing will be quite significantly higher. Its ability to understand very complex thing together, right, would be significantly improved. So there are a lot of things people are talking about, like there could be different contexts at a different place at a different situation, and if there is something, some meaning out of that, it could help you to bring that meaning out together, basically. That is one part. Secondly, it can also, so there is a time series LLM people talk about. So time series LLM is like by situation, by looking at situation that is happening all across, processing at planetary level, it could probably predict what could happen from now. So prediction will become very accurate in coming future, basically. Secondly, it will become more real time in nature. It will also be very multimodal in nature. So whatever the data that is being put together, whatever data that you expect out of it, it will give that to you, basically. It will consume every type of the data that we can have, be it a image, be it a video, be it a text, be it a speech, be it a video. So all that consumption will become very efficient here, and the outcome also can be based on what you need, basically, right? And it would also throw a lot of novel solution, because this ability to understand all the hypotheses and process them all together, it could able to identify the novelty out of it basically. So that's the AI in coming future. But this is very important. So it will be highly accurate as we talk about. The predictive models will become increasingly accurate here. Then one of the important part of all of the knowledge work, especially consulting work or the research work, is your ability to frame the problems, but the problems which are complex and interdisciplinary. So here we have a lot of struggle, but it will do that basically. So the things which is at a different level, different paradigm, different plane, but there could be something still possibly connecting them basically, and some problem that can be framed to understand this interdisciplinary and complex kind of a problem, and it will be very good at framing such kind of problems, and solutions can be devised for that basically, right? Then innovation, especially, it will be accelerated innovation going forward. Some of the important thing is anything you do, be it health, be it diagnosing any system, it will be much better in terms of diagnosing as compared to human. So it will surpass human ability to diagnose system and probably giving the treatment plan as well. And this is very important, critically important for the security as well, right? And eventually, that's very important statement I'm making. Eventually, it would be very better at moral listening and even ethical decision making as well. While we always talk about AI's and ethics, basically, we always talk about responsible AI. We always talk about AI's ability to alignment with the human value. But if ethics can be programmed, one of the important things people talk about, there was a lot of discussion happened because of some automated vehicle. There's a decision, right? If there is has to be on the road, what exactly it has to be done, so saving a person or saving itself or saving the driver. So all of those decision making, the AI model has to make, right? One of the important thing here, basically, right? We all human learn individually, right? But system or these models learns collectively. Their learning is connected and collective learning, basically. If one system or AI system makes a mistake, it learns, but it only not learning itself, right? All the systems will learn out of it, basically. So whatever the nuances of ethics, basically, once you program at one level, it could probably help you to program other level as well. Right? So that way, eventually, it will be much better at taking or helping you with taking those moral decisions and ethical decisions as well. And this is one of the important ability of humanity, right? We ourselves would be taking pride that whatever decision we make is morally sound and ethically sound as well. But this morality is a nothing but a ability to understand all those dimensions, interest, emotions, all those kind of nuances, all those granularities, and then only you could be moral in terms of your taking your decision, basically. So this requires processing of large chunk of data and understanding the meaning out of it, basically. And AI will be much better at, and because of that, its ability to take those or help those with the moral decision making will be quite significantly higher, basically. Right? So this is what AI would be in coming future from now to next 2-3 years of time, and they say by 26, 27, it will probably consume all the publicly available data. Anybody knows the language it uses is attention. What is attention? It uses the language of attention token. Most of the AI talks about attention token. Every prompt you talk about, it tells you how many tokens that it will process. So what that means. Yeah.
So one question, with all these changes that is happening and that systems that is getting developed, don't you think there needs to be a guardrail protecting on a framework where it's not bypassing a certain level?
Yeah, so
whether it is an emotional
entire
connect
day today we'll be discussing on guardrails and governance.
Okay.
In the morning we are just discussing what is happening.
Okay.
What it bringing to us a table. After this as well, there is a session which is planned for the AI, use of AI for security and other things. In the evening, we'll be talking about the governance and guardrails as well.
Okay, thank you.
We are just limiting in this discussion, understanding this better and comprehending this in terms of to see what is what is being laid down to us, and where exactly we are going from now, right? And and next thing that we will be probably talking in this particular session is how do we as an individual thrive in this world basically. So that's, I will definitely discuss about it. But anything that you see coming to you or coming would be coming, and there is one of the important topic that I talked about is attention and attention token. Anybody understand the language of token? Why it is talked about? They say कि currently we reach to a level of processing 1 million token or 2 million token. What that means? Anybody?
Query or a phrase which can be
No,
elaborated.
phrase and query is not token.
No, you just get symbolic connectivity to a particular piece of information. You say token.
Could be one articulation of that. Any other?
You would have put a analysis or a flow. It has reached that flow or it has matched that flow.
So token is very interesting, and they say attention token. Yeah. Yeah. So one articulation is that. But for example, you ask a question, right? You prompt something, right? You are asking, for example, uh, any question that comes to your mind, basically, right? I'm asking a question about what is the material science in next 2 years of time in a specific area of a which can be used or replacement to the semiconductor. So this is my question. This is my prompt, basically, right? For this prompt, it has to bring all those possible information together, all those relations together, all those nuances together, right? So it has to get them and process them, right? So for each of the smallest unit, where it will process to give answer to me is called as token. And language is a token, attention token. So this is another very interesting articulation here. Token, you understand. So now what happens, it has processed the data, right? But it didn't know for which purpose this attention needs to be given or this data needs to be processed. So means if you are asking a question, if you are prompting it, so in a way you are asking all that information you have, all that smallest, finest nuance information you have, you process for my requirement. You give attention to my problem. You give attention to my issue. You give attention to my question. And that's why it talks about attention token basically. So this language, token you understand, but attention token is another language that they use. Your question, your use cases, your prompt is teaching LLM give attention to that question. Right? So now, once you use this, in fact, yesterday only my article on this attention divide has been published in this business line. I talked about a user like you and me, which is using this. If you are not using it, then probably you are not teaching LLM to give attention to your problem, give attention to your issues. Those users which are using it actively again and again across generation, and every 5 months, 6 months, the generation are changing, new LLM version is coming. So eventually what will happen, those users which are not, and this is a governance issue, I'll talk about it in the evening, those people who are not using LLM system, it's a new kind of divide, which I call this attention divide. Your LLMs will not learn to give attention to your problem, learn to give attention to your issue. Eventually, generation after generation, a particular group, particular society, if it is away from not using LLM system, it's not. So, and eventually, if LLM is used for all of those kind of things, right from public policy to taking decision, so some group which is not using it, LLM has not learned to give attention to the problem, basically. This divide is something I call as the attention divide. So we until now talked about digital divide and many other divides. So this is attention divide basically. We'll talk about that in the evening in terms of discussion on the governance. But now, once you understand the language of token, understand the attention token as a concept, then there is a very interesting discussion which is happening now. There is ability, context window. Anybody knows understand the concept of context window? Context input and context output. Context output is says that it's at the max 2000 words. 2000 words means 20 pages. That's the context output. And context input is you provide input, right? An input can be a document, can be a prompt, can be an image, can be a video, right? So multimodal AI understand it is text, it is database, it's an image, it's a video, it's a speech. So any such kind of thing will be input to the AI system. But the length of this context is very important. So ChatGPT has 128 KB length. Eventually, Google is talking about 1 million kind of a context width or token width, basically, right? Now they are talking about 2 million. And eventually they're talking about million tokens that AI system can consume. And by 26, 27, AI systems will be consuming all the publicly available data that is equal to 2600 trillion tokens. So all the globe's publicly available information is equal to 26 to 2700 trillion tokens, basically. In those finer detail, the information can be used for, basically, right? And more you use, more way of finding relation will be coming together, basically. So if millions of tokens get consumed, and it can be infinite number of token it can give, and they are saying that by next 2 or 3 years of time, it will produce in 1 year times only, it will produce output of 20,000 words, hundreds and thousands of pages, basically. So that ability of AI means the kind of report it will create. So currently it will create a report of 15-20 page. It will create 200 pages, 2000 pages eventually, right? So such kind of output it will be throwing, and it will also consume all the input. The length of input will be quite significantly higher in coming future, basically. So you just imagine, if it is a processing of such a kind of information, such a kind of context. Against that, certainly we have all those challenges, right? Some of the areas that we are looking at, some of the work that we have been doing at, and there are some works. For example, anybody knows Cursor and Cloud 8 3.5? Anybody knows Story? This Cursor is and Cloud 8 3.5 coming together. So they are able to now replace a lot of coding work, basically. And they're saying by next year, software engineer as an agent, AI agent, would be taking care of a significant part of the development work, basically. So is the knowledge work as well. I talk about ability to process data, and we talk about knowledge work, and the complex kind of a knowledge work it can help you to do that, basically. So then processing quantum coming in, so the ability will be quite significantly higher. We are talking about photonic computing, quantum computing. With that, currently we are just talking about GPUs. Some time back I talked about this memory wall. Currently the processing power is quite intense, but memories are not getting that much advanced, and that's why it is limiting the ability of it to process information in a real-time basis. But quantum computing coming in, it will process that. It will bring to various altogether different paradigm, basically. And we all are now getting into that paradigm. We all will get challenged. Each of us will get challenged. Each of the work that we are doing will be get challenged, basically. So how do you thrive in this world, basically? What should we do to thrive in this kind of world that we are getting into? First important part is some of us are not even aware about this, right? Some are not keeping pace with it, basically. Some of us are not even using it, basically. I talked about if you're not using it, you are not teaching it to give attention to your problem, basically. Right? So in this world that we are getting into, in this advancement that we are seeing, in these things that are challenging the entire type of the work that we have been doing. So how do we as an individual thrive into this world, basically? So I tried to create something out of it, and I think I put something about it some time back. So let's deliberate on that, right? One by one as a step. So this is the important thing that we should do as a, I don't know why it is not working. Uh, One of the important thing is the thriving is understanding this better, right? Developing the better literacy of what is happening in AI, its basics, its capabilities, and the limitations as well. So current limitation, as we know, 128 to 256 KB as a context input, but eventually it is becoming 1 million, 2 million, and every day things are getting changed basically, right? So very interesting language Google is talking about, and some other LLM models are talking about the infinity tokens it can process. What that means, how it will be achieving that basically, right? So current limitation, if you understand, you will understand all the basics and capability currently it has basically. That's one of the important thing that we could do as a individual, right? Eh, Then, then the embracing the because as you have seen, the increasingly it will be better at interdisciplinary learning basically, right? Another important thing it will become better at uh, understanding the new thing coming to the picture, right? So you need to bring interdisciplinary meta learning. So meta learning is your ability to getting adapted to the lot of new changes happening and to the pace at which they are happening basically, right? So that's another important thing we could do as a. Can somebody fix this? Um, Second important part is we need to learn how to augment our capability by leveraging this better, by leveraging the capabilities better. Uh, yeah. Oh. Uh, so how do we augment as individual the capability by using this better? And there are many use open source tools available, and even the commercial tools are not that costlier. $20 per month, right? It's not that significant cost to be paid, right? Most of the models, most of the advanced model like a Cloud or like a ChatGPT or Gemini, they just cost you $20 to $23 at the max per month. That's the cost of learning basically. That's the cost of investing with it basically, right? Then this is very important. So AI is not only using ChatGPT on web interface or on mobile application, right? It's also using it in a different workflows, doing understanding how exactly at an operational level things are getting changed, right? How you implement it, how you set up LLM ops on it, basically, right? So learning how to integrate AI tools in the workflow is another important thing that we can do as an individual and as an organization as well, right? Another important thing is the thinking needs to imbibe, basically, right? So as it is becoming more and more creative, we build the ability to think creatively, think abstract way. Abstraction thinking is what? Your ability to understand the bigger picture. Understanding, making means out of it. That's the abstract thinking, basically, right? And imbibe critical thinking, our even national education policy talks about it basically. Talk about your ability to go down those nuances, those dimensions, those interests, and getting hold of them is a critical thinking basically. How do you build that cautiously is an important thing, right? Then another important part, we need to, I know we are complacent in terms of work that we do, but you need to build that ability to get into complex problem solving, getting to understand different challenging problem statement that are existing and getting into uh, putting some kind of mental strains to understand those complex problems better, right? Because as it is getting better and better, then your existence depends on how you can think about the complex problem and solve those problems or give some solutions to the problem solving basically. So building unique visions and more importantly, emotional resonance is very important because it is getting better at understanding emotions. Your ability to understand emotions should also get evolved because then you will be competing with humans basically, right? With the AI systems. Then another important part, which probably we are a society of giving solutions. That's why we are service nation. We are providing services to all of the globe, right? But we need to transition from giving solutions to framing problem basically. Ability to frame problems, the learning to frame problems is a very important ability, right? Then we need to actively engage, I talked about, in experimenting, in deploying, in experiencing the capabilities it is coming. Every day new capabilities coming, right? How can we adopt it? How can we uh, actively engage with this LLM model is very important part, right? Then comes developing those skills, which is very important. So these skills, there could be still areas which requires human intervention, right? Which require human oversight. So if somebody builds those skills which requires human skills, definitely they will have better possibility of progressing in this kind of age that we'll be looking at, right? Then another important part is the learning, right? Learning to delegate, which Deepak talked about. How you delegate to AI while maintaining control at your end, basically, right? So that's a very important part. Then comes this is one of the important thing which is one of my favorite as well. How do you navigate these different dimensions, rapid changes? So creating that mental agility or flexibility or cognitive flexibility to understand, navigate these dimensions and those changes which are rapidly happening day to day basis. Every day things are changing, right? That's another important thing. Building resilience to coping with disruptions is another important thing. Disruptions are happening and people are getting into a lot of trouble. And I had seen Silicon Valley, the kind of jobs that people are losing. And I gone through that particular week. One big organization has given pink slips almost 30,000 plus people together, altogether. And AI is one of the users I cited there basically. So how do you cope with such kind of disruptions happening? Then at the same time, it provides this uncertain age, but it also provides a lot of opportunity to us, right? It also uh, create a lot of those possibilities for us. So once we try to conversant with it, finding opportunity and realizing those opportunity becomes very easy for us basically, right? Another important part, because ethics and reasoning is very important and AI is getting better at it. So your ability to understand the nuances and meanings of this ethical and moral dimension is very important. So you need to invest your time to understand them better, right? Then comes how do you invest in developing very meaningful, because if AI systems are even doing social interactions, even engaging with most of the systems, it may be possible that your agent is talking to banking agent. So most of the interactions will be between agent and agent. So how do you still build those um, human connect and personal connect becomes very important part, and investing for that is very important part. Another important part is this metacognition thinking. So cultivate metacognition. Metacognition is think about your thinking process. So invest to understand your thinking process and see how can it adapt to the disruptions and advancement that we see in AI system. How do you think productively uh, to not become a subservient to the AI system, but become a kind of something which understand, which browse, and which also to some extent control all the system ecosystem basically, right? So being a servant to AI rather than being a master to AI. So for that you need to really work on your thinking system basically, and this kind of thinking is called as a metacognition. So cultivating that metacognition. And the last one is my favorite, is now actual. There is a existential. There are some areas which is existential in nature, right? So we need to embrace the philosophical thinking as well. And those people who are seeing this from philosophical perspective, so they understand this much better. So their ability to make sense of it becomes much better, basically. So in terms of the purpose, in terms of the consciousness, in terms of the intelligence, the meaning of that for humanity, meaning of that for the society, meaning of that for the universe, for the world is the important part. And philosophical way helps you to understand the systems much better, basically. So these things, if we practice, I know it's not easy for each of us to practice each and thing that is written here, but eventually start practicing some of these things and getting more conversant about what is happening would become probably easy for you to understand, comprehend, and probably thrive in the age of the AI, and which is coming very fast to us, basically. Every new breakthrough happening is creating a different level of challenges for us, basically. So we still have some time. I think 5 minutes. Any comment or question? Yes, Sunil.
You actually have explained and mentioned the governance part, right? But I still think that the machine is actually control what you do and what you don't do. How do you, I mean, where do we draw a line? Because individually we are cultures, culturally we are different, individually we are different, but here it's going to come up with a standard output, standard thinking, because it's based on the model, and it will always give the same output in every way. So your creativity or generating new things goes for, I mean, it when it doesn't work, right? So where do you draw the line and say that, okay, this is where AI should end and this is where humanity should take place?
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. This imbibing some of those metacognition or philosophy. Some of these people are now again revisiting to understand this better and see where exactly the divide comes in. Actually, right? There are some people which are saying ki it's an existential threat. Some people are saying that someday it will become conscious. We talk about consciousness and AI last year, but those days are far away as of now, basically, right? So understanding this better and then probably coming up with this probably is a borderline or guardrail or for that matter boundary line between us and machine basically, and that would happen only if people actively engage with this to understand, right? It's not very handful of people engaging with this. All of us has to engage with this basically and find a meaning of it basically, right? So it's not easy to answer this question, but yes, in the evening we'll be discussing about that for sure. Any other point? Hope this was useful. Yeah. So then we close with this. So this was something that we always start the best practice meet or any other event of DSA with such kind of best practice meet. Thank you for your patience and listening, and more importantly, these questions. So we'll with this we'll conclude here and immediately go for the formal session of this, and that is again on AI and how that can be leveraged for the cybersecurity. Uh, over to. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Round of applause again, a louder applause for Mr. Vinayak Godse.